a conservative value is unless you're if you're in the private sector getting paid $2 million a year, then that's what you deserve.
Sure.
Because someone that's voluntary exchange. A lot of the conservatives in my network who are pro-Trump people, if Trump says I don't like that person, then all of a sudden they make comments like someone put up this really stupid meme, and this is a person who I respect. Well, LeBron James makes so much million dollars a year for throwing a ball through a hoop, and a trained SEAL can do that. And I'm like, well,
that's ridiculous.
That's a ridiculous analogy. But it's because LeBron James is seen as the enemy, and so they're abandoning a very important conservative principle, which is you pay for there's a marginal revenue product. You know, I'm paying you $30 million because you're making me $40 million. It's a fundamental functional product of conservative thought.
That's 100% right.
And if you don't have that, you don't have an economic foundation of conservatism.
Well, and a perfect example of that, I mean, different sports take different skills, and you can't say that one sport you can't say that being a basketball player takes less skill than being a golfer. It takes a different skill,
right?
Different skill set. So who makes more money? The 110th best basketball player in the world or the best curler in the world? Who makes more money?
Well, in Sweden, they make a lot of money.
in North America. In the United States, okay, let's just say the United States. Nobody pays any money to watch curling.
No.
They don't do it. And it doesn't mean that you're not talented. It just means that
because you can't sell ad time.
That's exactly right.
That's all it is.
That's exactly right.
It's based off of, and here's when people complain about how much money professional athletes make, they haven't bothered to research any of the topic. Every dollar, I don't know how it is now, but up into through the 90s and probably through the 2000s, people are like, oh, he makes so-and-so million. You know why they make that money? That's the TV revenue. Right. Their salaries come from the TV revenue.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
So it's like whatever money they're making, that's how much money the stations are paying the NFL to be on TV. So who gets that money? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to say they don't deserve the money. It's not just they're making like the money's coming from the community. It's not even coming from the owners. It's coming from the fact that they sell ad time, and we're giving you a contract, but in exchange for paying that money, they can then sell ad time to these advertisers. So they're not losing money; they're getting their money back because Nike or Renault or whatever company, McDonald's is going to pay a certain amount because they know 15 million people or whatever are going to watch this Sunday. I watch football every Sunday. It's the only sport I make a point to watch. It's very important to me. Other things I catch when I catch, but
football is your thing.
Yes, well, at least Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon football.
Sure.
I mean, I don't watch it the whole time. I'm usually working, writing, but I just like having it on.
Yeah.
So I'm being hit with these ads. That's why they're getting paid that money. And for conservatives to go off on them because they don't like the athletes' politics, you can not like their politics, but there's nothing wrong with what they're being paid. And I think it's counter-conservative as an idea to complain about what they're getting paid because you don't like them and you're picking Donald Trump's side or whatever.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous. Because the thing is, they're being paid what they're being paid because there's a guy who wants him on the team and thinks if I have him on my team, I'm going to win. I'm going to make more money, so he's worth that.
He's worth it.
That's just the way things are.
And if you abandon that concept, then you that's an open door to go after every person who's making a lot of money.
Jay Leno said one time, and I love Jay Leno. I watch the Tonight Show every now and then. He's a halfway funny comic, but the main reason I like Jay Leno is he's got the coolest car collection known to man, and I love cars. I'm a car guy. And Jay Leno said one time, he said, I had a transmission replaced on my car, had rebuilt on one of my cars one time. And he said, and the guy that did it, it took him 8 hours to do it.
Right.
It took him 8 hours to do it. And he made about $200 that day. That's $25 an hour to rebuild a transmission. He said, $200 for 8 hours worth of work. He said, put 2 zeros behind that. And that's what I make in an evening doing stand-up. I make $20,000 in an evening. It took him all day long doing real hard work, 200. But the thing is a lot of guys know how to rebuild transmissions.
Right, that's what it is.
And there's not that many who can fill an auditorium and make people laugh.
That's the fun of it.
They paid Jay Leno $20,000 because they walked away with that much more.
Right. And you're paid based off the scarcity of your abilities.
And what the market will bear.
It's what the market will bear. And the fact is that, like you said, the NFL players, because I remember people try to compare NFL players to what teachers make. And absolutely ridiculous.
You can't do that.
You know, they're like the top 0.003% of the best college players make it to play maybe 2 or 3 years.
Well, and you hear the fans say all the time, and it's just a fan thing. Oh, that guy sucks. No, if he's playing in the NFL or the NBA or the NHL or the NBL, he is a unbelievable ball player. Even if he's the last guy on the roster and a bench warmer, he's an incredible athlete. Right,
and anybody in that elite of a position, comparing an NBA player to a teacher somewhere in Nebraska is a nonsensical comparison.
It's silly. It's ridiculous.
Most people, if they get a teaching certificate, can get a teaching job. And it's just a completely different market, you know? And to be honest with you, it's not necessarily a better deal to be a professional player. There's a lot of players. Most players don't make more in their lifetime playing sports. Now, nowadays, because they always look at those huge contracts that Mike Trout gets or LeBron James.
Right.
You have to play 8, 9, 10 years for that, and you have to be of that 3,000th of 1%. You have to be the top 1,000 of them.
Exactly.
You don't compare LeBron James to an average teacher or an average car mechanic.
No, you can't do that.
But the average player, like back in the 90s when I was working on it, that was the other project I did where I was defending athlete salaries, and this one I knew we were in trouble because a lot of black folks were like, it was weird. They didn't know the liberals were unhappy with me. And it was interesting because, like I said, most of the politically agnostic black folks were on my side. But the diehard Democrats were like, oh, that's so terrible. But I've found that the average school teacher, over the course of their life, you know, they're going to, at the time, they're making 40,000 a year. But you're 25 years, whatever. The average ball player was only making maybe $250,000. Football player, their average career was 2.5 years. So when you add it up, you're not making more. And these teachers, once you get tenure, you're there.
Yeah,
you don't have to do anything. You can suck. Well, you can have the worst test scores in the world, and these teachers are going to have their jobs. If you're an NFL player and you suck, you're gone.
Exactly. That's it. You're done. To your conservative friends who say that the ball players and the teachers should be paid the same, I can only think of one politician who might agree with that. Tell your conservative friends that would be Bernie Sanders.
That's a very good point. And I did bring that up a couple times. They didn't like that.
Now, the one thing I will say about athletes proselytizing about stuff that has nothing to do with sports. Now, to make a statement here or there, fine. I get that because they're people. They have an opinion just like you and I. But nobody wants to watch a ball player lecture them on how they should live their life. Nobody wants to see that because ball players are paid that big money because average Joe works all day long and he wants to, on a Sunday, unwind and watch a football game. That's his escape. That's his fun. And that's one of the things that I think has been taken away from us. I can't watch the NBA or the NFL anymore. They've taken, it's not fun anymore.
Well, but
it's like Sean Penn is a fantastic actor. He's won 2 Academy Awards.
Yeah.
I can't watch him in a film because he just embraced that son of a bitch, Hugo Chavez.
That's stupid.
Who
was a racist authoritarian who like tortured. Yeah, I mean,
but he's and I have a close personal friend who had to take his family out of Venezuela to escape that.
Oh, you know, Hugo. I'm thinking of Chavez, Che Guerrero. I'm sorry.
Che was
That's Colin Kaepernick. About Hugo Chavez. Well, same thing. They both were. They both were racist jailers. I was thinking of, I'm getting the Che's mixed.
Yeah, you're right. Kaepernick wore the Che Guevara shirt.
Yeah, he was a yeah.
Do you know that he was just a torturous murderer?
Yeah. He also said when they were involved they were helping Angola fight against South Africa, and he said the black people wouldn't be smart enough to know how to use the weapons. So they wanted.
I remember that. Yes.
So I mean, this whole black people embracing Castro. Castro was a racist. There weren't black people in his inner circle. But
the thing is though, nobody watches those guys for this. They watch them for that. They watch them because they're entertaining. And I
think there's some people watching them for that. They used to be not. There used to not be. Back in the day, like you said, 25 years ago.
You think there's people that are watching the NFL because of
I wouldn't say that they're watching because of that, but there's a small group of those people that are demanding that. Yeah, so because I've watched MSNBC for several years, just South City thing, whatever.
Sure.
And what many people don't see, if you don't see that, and I'm glad because I think the station's horrible, but it's interesting. It's so bad, it's interesting to me. It's like watching, it's like watching a fire in California. See, now I got one. It's like but if you saw a fire, you'd sit there and you'd watch it, even though it's a horrible thing. You'd be like, "Whoa, man, that whole force." That's kind of like MSNBC. Their coverage on everything is just, but yeah. There are people, and there's a part of the intellectual community that demands, not just asks, demands that LeBron James and these other people do what they're doing. They're demanding it.
Do they realize that they're ruining their product?
They don't care. I don't think those people really like sports. I think what it is it's advancing their engine. It's control.
Yeah.
Because they know that they have this thing where most of the people who watch sports are white. Well, most people in America are white. But like you said, people enjoy sports across race, across gender. Mm-hmm. If you go to a football game, like every football game I've been to, it's been 50% women. Right.
Lots of women. They love it.
So I think that's why, because they have a fear of people enjoying things outside of their hyphenated identity. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not one to say I believe there's differences. There's differences in the white male experience. There's differences in the white woman experience. There's differences in a trans experience or a gay. I don't think we should wash those away. That's one thing I don't agree with the conservatives. I think sometimes they try too hard. There are things that I was forced to deal with as a kid because I was black. And a lot of times it was from black folks. It was most of the problem was from liberals. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the reasons why I was often more comfortable with conservatives is because a lot of times they didn't want to mess with that. Mm-hmm. But, and like getting back to why I think black male comics operate a different space, and having worked with so many young black folks, young black men, and again, I'm not really trying to generalize about black women. I'm just not a black woman, so I don't really want to speak on it. Mm-hmm. I just know statistically speaking, the data shows that black men statistically are a lot more likely to break away from voting. If you look, there's a huge difference between how black men supported Hillary Clinton and how black women did. Black women voted for her about tune of 92, 93%. She only got 78% of the black male vote. That's a very big difference. There's something going on there. And as black males' education went up, they were more likely to vote for Donald Trump.
Interesting.
So 11% of black men without 11% of black men total voted for Trump. But 16% of black men with a college degree or better voted for Donald Trump. And it goes all the way up to PhD, 23, 24%.
Really?
Which is the opposite trajectory for white people.
With the white people, the more education you had, the more likely you were to vote for Hillary Clinton.
With black women, it went up a little bit, but not nearly as much. Like, there wasn't anywhere near 25%. It was black women never, even with college degrees, don't get anywhere near 10% supporting Donald Trump.
But black or white, man or woman, educated or uneducated, you see them all at a Cardinal game. Okay,
yeah, absolutely, right.
I mean,
right.
And that's, to me, sports is a big unifier.
Absolutely,
and I know of virtually everybody that I know in my circle either stop watching the